Fred Pleitgen is out front in Kyiv. And Fred, air raid sirens, they were going off earlier today. No surprise given what's been going on. But what has it been like on the ground?
Hi there, Pamela. Well, there were some pretty severe drone and missile attacks by the Russians, and they pretty much came in two waves. One was overnight using cruise missiles and drones, and the Ukrainians say their air defenses managed to actually shoot most of those down. And then later in the morning, there were ballistic missile attacks, and the Ukrainians actually said of 11 ballistic missiles shot at the capital, Kyiv, they managed to take all of those out. Now, nevertheless, of course, for the folks who live in this city, there were some seriously frightening moments. Here's what happened.
Terrified children running for their lives as Russia unleashed another massive aerial attack on Ukrainian cities. But Ukraine says its air defense managed to shoot down all the ballistic missiles fired at the capital, Kyiv. And now Ukraine's forces seem nearly ready for their own much-anticipated counter-offensive. This weekend, Ukraine's top general, Valery Zaluzhny, releasing this video showing troops gearing up for battle and showcasing modern Western weapons with a clear message: it's time to take back what's ours. And that's what these guys are training for. This is a unit of the offensive guard of Ukraine's interior ministry. We have a clear motivation, the commander says. We defend our lands. This is our nation, our homeland. The offensive guard is mustering tens of thousands of troops, they say, training to storm trenches and evacuate casualties, which they know they're bound to have in the tough battles ahead.
What these guys are practicing here, no doubt, will become a reality for the Ukrainian armed forces very soon, as Kyiv says it will start a massive counteroffensive to take back all of their territory, including Crimea.
The Ukrainians already seem to be stepping up strikes on possible Russian supply lines in occupied areas. Russian-installed officials claiming Ukrainian missile attacks against targets around Berdyansk and Mariupol in southeastern Ukraine in the past days. It's just the beginning, a top advisor to Ukraine's presidency tells me. Everything that is happening now is a precursor for a counterattack, a necessary precursor where the intensity of fire increases. And he lays out bold aims for the counteroffensive. It will end undoubtedly on the borders of Ukraine as they were in 1991, with the deoccupation of Crimea and with the beginning of a massive process of transformation of Russia's political system. But for now, resilience remains key for the people in Ukraine's cities. These newlyweds had just tied the knot and were on their way to their celebration when the air raid sirens went off. So they just continued to celebrate in the bomb shelter, vowing not to let Russian rockets ruin the best day of their lives.
And you know, Pamela, that's really the resilience that we see from a lot of people here in Kyiv. Of course, when the sirens go off, the folks, they do run into the shelters, they run for cover. However, they emerge pretty quickly after the all clear comes in, and they go about their daily lives. They go straight back to work. And one of the things that the head of Ukraine's military intelligence said today is he said, look, if the Russians believe they can scare the people in Ukraine and in Kyiv specifically, they certainly are mistaken. Pamela?
Well, thank you, Fred. Out front now, former Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Kasyanov. He served as Prime Minister when Vladimir Putin first became president. Thank you for joining us tonight. So you worked alongside Putin for a number of years. When you see this new massive assault of missiles by Russia into Ukraine, what do you think Putin is trying to do right now?
I think Mr. Putin and his inner circle, they demonstrating their nervousness. They're expecting Ukrainian counteroffensive operation, and they're nervous about that. And they're trying to somehow to prevent or to make it more difficult, etc. But of course, these atrocities just continue to take place, and people all over the world already just cannot keep patience on that. And everyone just in the West and we who Russian Democrats also expecting just success of Ukrainian upcoming counteroffensive operation.
And Ukraine, meantime, appears to be stepping up attacks in Russian-occupied territories. We have seen a number of attacks by pro-Ukrainian groups inside Russia. What impact do those attacks have on Putin and the Russian public?
I think, of course, it's not, I would say, admitted by Ukrainian government that they're involved on this. But these, of course, operations on the territory of Russia, of course, demonstrating some kind of weakness of border control of Russia or Russian authorities, and of course, creating some kind of fear among Russian army and population, and also administrations in those regions, and in Kremlin. That is the most important thing. Just as demonstration that Russia is not protected so much as Putin just declared for decades, that security and stability is the major point for and his strategy. But right now, just this demonstration that is not the case.
Do you see a point at which Putin will be willing to negotiate in good faith?
With good faith, it's interesting expression of good faith. Putin wants to negotiate right now, but he doesn't want to withdraw troops from occupied territories. He wants to stop. He needs a ceasefire so that to restructure the army and the economy facing problems.
Let's just take a step back for a second. I mean, when you look at and listen to Putin now, how is he different, if at all, from the person that you worked with back in the early 2000s?
Oh, I should tell that's a completely different person. At that time, when we worked together, and at first his term, he promised to me and to all the team of my cabinet that he would support all the reforms. And in fact, he implemented this promise with the exclusion of two reforms. He didn't allow me to undertake administrative reform, which means reduction of state involvement in the economy and public life, etc. And he didn't allow me to pursue gas sector reform. It means just to destroy Gazprom monopoly for gas supplies. But at that time, now I understand, he pretended to be a democratically devoted person, but in fact, he was always a KGB agent. Right now, he performs as he is a natural person, Putin's KGB agent with the absolutely distorted worldview.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And out front now, retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, former commanding general of Europe and the 7th Army. So you just heard there from the former Prime Minister Kasyanov saying that those massive strikes overnight show how nervous Putin and his inner circle are about this coming offensive. From a military standpoint, what would Russia be trying to do with those strikes?
Pamela, they're trying to interfere with the connection between the political body and the decision makers in the Kyiv government, President Zelensky, with his field generals, General Zaluzhky. They have developed a plan. There has been messaging on the internet today saying that President Zelensky has approved that plan. Now I think Russia is really, it's not just going after Ukraine as former Prime Minister Kasyanov said, it's more to try and interfere with the command and control structure between the political leaders in Kyiv and the frontline generals all along the front line.
And there's reporting out there that we talked about earlier in the show where some of the missiles they're using are millions of dollars a piece. I mean, this is precious arsenal for Russia. What do you make of that?
Well, it certainly is for Russia, and they are running out of these missiles. But there have been reports that they've been running out for a long time. You happen to mention that some of these Russian missiles cost millions of dollars. The missiles that shoot them down, the Patriot missiles, also cost millions of dollars, between 3 and 4 million a copy. So it really is a race to logistics, a race to technological advantage. And I think what happened last night with the drone strikes, accompanying missile strikes in the evening, and then further ballistic missiles during the day, again, it's Russia attempting to template what Ukraine is doing in their defensive positions, and then trying to get the faster moving missiles, the more damaging missiles into the capital city. So it's a tactic. We're hearing reports of 90 missiles or whatever, but the way they're being shot into the different locations in Ukraine, Russia is attempting to interfere with command and control structure as well as troop movements within Ukraine. So it is a back and forth, and it can't just be the big tactic of, hey, we're shooting a lot of missiles.
It's really interesting with the Patriot missiles because, as you'll recall, there was so much back and forth and reluctance from the Biden administration to send the Patriot missiles. Now they're over there, as Zelensky says, they're using them, they're saving lives. If you had a bird's eye view of Ukraine, what clues would you be looking for to see if Ukraine was about to start its offensive?
Well, there's a strategic objective that President Zelensky has, and he has given that to his military commanders. And over the last several months and weeks, they have been shaping the battlefield. We've used that term multiple times on here. Now it's time for the military commanders to come back to the president and say, hey, look, boss, we have looked at the battlefield. Here's where the Russians are weak. Here's where we need to be strong. Let's start moving forces from their lager areas in the rear of Ukraine into their attack positions. So I think what we're going to see in the next couple of days and weeks is a lot of movement of Ukrainian forces. They are going to try and hide that movement the best they can. And at the same time, they're going to try and deceive Russia for where they are going and what axis of advance they're going to use. So a lot of this, Pamela, is a lot like a chessboard. Both sides are playing chess. They're trying to beat the other one to get to the right position so they can conduct the kind of offensive and defensive operations they need.